And then the risk factor that just comes to my mind, and it is the example in the dictionary, is smoking. So apparently everyone knows that a risk factor for respiratory disease is smoking. And I by no means mean we all have to be perfect and always turn away that delicious dinner brownie after, but because I enjoy having a beer with my friends, and I know that that might not always be good for me, but they need to be weighed against your overall risk of your life. And I just found this skydiving picture because I'm not sure how much a helmet will help at this point. But I just thought, while they're going for it, they might as well wear a helmet. Well, in a few slides, we're going to kind of tackle the biggest three risk factors, and I would encourage you to just pay special attention to those. I'm a science person, so I'm into research, but there are different hierarchies of power in research. So, like, I get news alerts on when the New York Times has like some exercise related article. That readership is in the millions, and I'll look at the science behind actual article that they're referencing, and it could be like some poorly done study in South Korea. And I just think, man, there's so many people that are going to be basing some new lifestyle change off of this. And I know alcohol's kind of been tossed around, like one glass of red wine is good for you, but three is detrimental. And I'm sure the truth is somewhere in between. I'm going to let that research continue playing out for a few decades. We'll kind of discuss the three big risk factors coming up. I have these kind of definitions as well, like risk factor is something that increases risk, which we just went over, and then a chronic disease, which we haven't talked about yet, is a broad term for a condition that lasts more than 1 year and requires ongoing medical attention. So the big ones are like high blood pressure, diabetes. Those are kind of the big ones. I'm going to have you all think at home, what is the primary risk factor for chronic disease? Choose one: obesity, aging, depression, or eating Fruit Loops for breakfast. And the answer is aging. Aging is not a modifiable risk factor. It is not something you can change. So we have to do our best to minimize the negative effects of these multiple systems interacting as we age. So every system in and of itself is complicated, but the aging on top of that just makes it complex. We're going to dive a little bit more into modifiable and non-modifiable risk factors. We kind of know these things that you can change: high blood pressure, blood cholesterol levels, smoking, physical activity, your diet usually. But I just want to make a point that 60 to 70% of health is determined by behaviors we can influence, if not control. So you cannot control the size of your prostate, but you can influence its effect on your nightly urination by improving the muscle system and the nerve system around your prostate. Same goes for women. We can influence and control our breathing to help our mood and our nervous system. The non-modifiable is really like our genetic makeup, anything that happened in the past, or unavoidable biological factors which are associated with aging. These are the really glaringly obvious parts of health that we cannot control: age, genetics, ethnicity, and sex. We know certain diseases are prone to certain ethnicities. With age comes this difficult part in managing your chronic conditions. All right, big slide here. All these on the left in this left box are all things that we can influence. So we'll put them in the modifiable risk factor category: shortness of breath, sleep, physical disability, activity level, sadness, coordination, obesity, cognition, bone loss, muscle loss, motivation, fitness, kidney damage, arterial stiffness, cardiac output, insulin, energetic inefficiency, which is related to like our endocrine system, like thyroid production, urinary issues, alcohol, arthritis, and tobacco use. What happens when our bodies are just growing older? So loss of proteostasis is like the cell's ability to rebuild. and we're not even going to get into it because we can't change it. These are the literally the only things about the aging process that we're fighting against. This is where our wrinkles come from, and our mid-afternoon naps are from, the cells just not being able to regenerate as fast. A good muscle loss example, which we're going to talk about in the next lecture, is called sarcopenia, which is age-related muscle loss. And that is just the amount of like muscle tissue you're going to lose every year, starting when you're about 60, maybe 50 for females. Like, we still don't even know the root mechanism of sarcopenia, this age-related muscle loss. But when I usually ask people, like, when they notice themselves getting weak or having trouble with balance or strength, it's usually like when they're 60 or 70. But if this process naturally starts when we're 40 or 50, why didn't you notice it then? Yeah, I always think that's kind of interesting because the body is starting to like lose that cellular regeneration in the sometime in the fourth decade, let's say. And I find it becomes more prevalent which with age, just as it interacts with other conditions which affect this kind of multiple systems problem. I'll try to keep it there today.